Hello, everyone, and welcome to Boston Balling. I'm your host, Gabby Hurlbut. I hope everyone's having a great start to the week. It's the middle of the week now, which is nice. So that weekend is close. It's coming. I hope everyone's doing well. Had a good week. It's things have been kind of interesting in the sports world right now. Kind of an interesting time, especially with everything that has gone on the last couple of years. To just kind of looking at everything now, but hope everyone's doing well. I'm excited to have a special guest with me today, two-time World Series champion with the Red Sox, Stephen Wright. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic.
That's good. Yeah, we were just
Yeah,
talking about the cold weather and the snow, but it's has not been fun. There's been a good amount of snow so far here, but so far overall it's been kind of a tame winter. Fingers crossed that it stays like that.
yeah. Here it's been nice and snowy, so we enjoy it because we get a sled. But then now it's all melted, so we don't get it. It doesn't stay like it does in the Northeast, but when we get it, we enjoy it. But now it's time for it to move on.
Yeah, I've never done skiing or anything like that either. So I'm just not really,
Right.
there's not much in the winter that really appeals to me.
Yeah, me neither. I grew up in Southern California. We had to go to the snow, and so I never really did. But here, we get to go sledding and stuff, so it's fun for the kids. And plus they got out of school because out here everything shuts down when it snows.
Yeah, no, that I remember I used to love snow days growing up. They were the best.
Yeah,
When I woke up one morning thinking I had to go to school and then found out school was canceled. That was always
yeah,
the best feeling ever.
yeah. It's like vacation.
It is, yeah, it
Yeah.
really is. Yeah, that's fun though. I mean, yeah, winter. When you say California, I mean it's funny because I had a couple friends from college that were from California, like Southern California, and they don't ever get snow there. So then
Yeah.
they came to college, and the first time they ever saw snow was there, and they got so excited about it. And I said, "You won't be excited about it in about a
Yeah,
month.
yeah, give it a week.
Well, you'll be so over it, like the rest
Yeah,
of us."
for sure.
But yeah, no, I appreciate you joining me on the show. Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot that we can talk about. I mean, baseball obviously is not really going on right now, but that which is kind of sad. But yeah, what can we just kind of start off by just kind of talking a little bit about your baseball journey, kind of how you fell in love with the game and how you ended up going all the way to the major league level.
Oh, yeah, I started when I was about 9 or 10. I had my great grandfather at the time was a big high school baseball coach for Lakewood High School and out in LA. And then I had an older cousin that played, and so just being around it, just kind of fell in love with it. And over the time, like I just played, rec ball, pony ball, out in Moreno Valley, and then when I was like 12 or 13, I ended up doing one tournament actually in Minnesota, and then that's where I was like, wow, like I'm not bad. Like I can, obviously I wasn't the best, but I could tell like I was able to compete with my age group from people around the country, and then that's where I really started to fall in love with like working out and working on pitching and hitting. Catching, like whatever I did, I just worked out hard, and I was blessed that I had coaches around me that either played pro ball, played in the big leagues, have been around the game for a long time. So they just poured all their knowledge into me and then my teammates. And so that kind of, because like I was getting proper instructions and I was seeing the fruits of my labor every time I went out and played against higher competition, I just kept going. And then, obviously getting into high school, getting drafted out of high school was awesome. I mean, I didn't sign, but it was exciting because I'm like, man, like if I work a little bit harder, maybe get a little bit better, I'll be able to actually fulfill my dream of being a professional baseball player. So I ended up going to college, and went to University of Hawaii, and then I would say my freshman year was okay. My sophomore year is where I was like, all right, I know I can pitch at least, but give myself an opportunity to get seen, to get drafted. And then I went out to the Cape Cod League, and that's where I really was like, wow, I was like, I think I could do this. Like, I think I can at least put myself in a position to continue to pursue, a chance of making it to the big leagues, and then, getting drafted and all that. And kind of just, I just kept going and kept going, knowing that like, I love the game so much that I didn't want to just give up. But, so it's just, there's a lot of roads that led to me getting an opportunity to play in the big leagues. But I think everything that has happened along my career and my life, both on and off the field, has made me a better person on the inside, which in return can help me be a better teammate, a better husband, a better father. And then I think all that kind of correlates into being, consistent, and that's what baseball is you got to be consistent. It's not about who's better on one day. It's who's better on a season, and then on 2 seasons and 3 seasons, and doing it consistently year in and year out. And those are the guys that make a career out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's, you have to have that work ethic and that determination to want to do it, because I feel like the biggest part is, not somebody could have the skill to be able to do it, but not everybody has that mental capacity to be able to, sustain it and continue to do it to get to that level. And I do feel like that's why a lot of people don't make it there.
Yeah, I mean, it's because you're gonna have trial and error. I mean, you got so many people that, kids, right, that their whole lives, like, they just been better than everybody, right? Like, they just, no matter where they grew up, like, they're just better, right? Everybody's better. They're always succeeding. They're always winning, or they're always, told like, hey, you're good, you're great, you're doing a good job. Whether it's, just giving them something, or even if they earn it, it doesn't matter, because then once you get to a certain level, everybody's good. Right. So what's the separating factor between, in my opinion, I think it's like double A, right? For pro ball. Like, once you get to double A, everybody's good, or at least 90% of the guys there are good enough to play in the big leagues. It's the question is what separates the guys that make it and the guys that don't. And one of them is consistency, but it's that will. It's like, you're going to have bad weeks. Hitters are going to have bad weeks. Pitchers are going to have bad months. For like a starting pitcher, you can have 3 or 4 bad outings in a row. That's a month. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what are you going to do? Like, how are you going to get out of that? How are you going to stay consistent? And the guys that I've seen, obviously playing in Boston, it was great because I got to play against some unbelievable future Hall of Famers, in my opinion. And it's like, you couldn't tell if they had a bad start the day before or a good start, because the routine always stays the same. They're always trying to get better, whether they have a good outing or a bad outing. It doesn't matter. You got to turn the page and keep moving on. If you sit here and you dwell, whether good or bad, on what you just did, well, it doesn't matter. It's over. You can't go back in time. But if you let that, you got to learn from the good and the bad, and then you just got to move forward. And that, if you can mentally prepare to get past the struggles and even the successes, because you don't want to be too high and too low. It's 162 games.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the other thing too, is it's such a long season that, what are some of the challenges with kind of maintaining that mindset of, yeah, I just need to keep going, because it's so long.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of challenges. I think a lot of it, obviously you have the physical part, but I think, with science now and with the training staffs that we have and the technology and I think all that is great, because there are ways to learn how to, it's not just, I'm just going to lift a bunch. I'm not just going to run. I'm like, there's ways to kind of get in a good routine based off of your workload. So there are ways to help your body physically, but it's all mental, honestly. Like, it is all mental, because even when you got to, because the thing is, I guess, for a pitcher, right, I can't speak too much on position players because I was never a position player, but as a pitcher, it's like, nobody knows whether I feel good or not. I do, but they don't. And so it's sometimes, like, my saying is, you got to fake it till you make it, right? Sometimes you just got to grind through it, and you got to figure out how to get through, right? Because the hitter doesn't know whether I feel good or not. And, like, I don't know if they feel good or not. And I was like, but I gotta keep my mentality of saying that I got the best stuff every day, right? And then you just got to figure it out. You're going to get hit around, but it's minimizing the big innings, it's minimizing your walks. So even if I'm going to give up runs, in my opinion, I'd rather just give up hits, because there is a chance that they could hit a freaking linea and it's going to get caught. You can't defend a walk, right? Like, there's nothing you can do. Like, the players, or the position players, are useless if you're walking guys. And so, but with all that being said, if you're going to get through these like the downs, is you can't change, and you can't do more work because you're struggling. Just like if you're doing good, you don't do less work. You got to stay consistent, and you got to have a routine. You got to find out what that routine is, and you got to stick to it as close as possible, knowing that, and it's going to change too, because depending on the season, right? At the beginning of the season is going to be different than the middle of the season versus the end of the season. But you got to find something. And that's where, like, for me, I always would watch and lean on some of the guys that done it for 10, 12 years, right? It's like, how do they get through it? I mean, I want to do what they're doing. They're 12 years in. I'm 4 years in. I want to get to 12 years, right? So I want to find out, and you just kind of pick and choose from different people, but in the end, you got to figure out what works for you.
Yeah, exactly. Because everybody's different, and not one thing isn't going to work for everybody. So it's about kind of finding your own rhythm and your own way of doing things to be able to
Yeah,
sustain that. And then if you, like you said, if you do have a bad outing, you can't just dwell on that or worry about it. It's just okay. That game is in the past. Now on to the next one.
exactly.
Because if because it's just gonna mentally or not, if you're not going to be able to move forward if you're still super worried about your last outing, because there's so many more games where you can make up for that.
Absolutely. There's a lot of season left.
Yeah, and that's the thing about baseball. I love baseball because it's a long season, and I love being able to watch games every night for a good majority of the year. But
Yeah.
it's got to be tough, for players to be able to really just sustain that mindset of, I can do this, and I've got this. And I think that's why we see a lot of players just not work out.
Yeah, I mean it's sad, but I mean that's why guys like Mookie and Trout and JD and Bogey and guys that can do it every single day. I mean that's tough. Like to be able to do that year in and year out, that's hard. That's hard on the body. Like you can be in the best shape of your life, but that's a lot of workload. But I know like playing, seeing Bogey, especially playing with him since he started in 13 is just his routine has changed, right? Like and because he's gotten smarter, it's work smarter, not harder, right? Is you got to know the days to back off, and you got to know like too, like if you're in the game, like if we're getting our butts kicked, like you're not going to freaking sprint as hard as you can down the first baseline because it's like, listen, like even though you want to get that extra hit or maybe you don't want to turn that single into a double, right? Because you're down a bunch. Like those are the times that you got to figure out, okay, when do I need to get it and when do I don't need to get it? When do I need to dive? When do I don't need to dive? Because at the end of the day, every time you fall down, whether it's a dive, a slide, or you're running, like all that is putting stress on your body. Right. And so there are times that you're going to have to do that. But at the end of the day, if you're an outfielder and we're down by 8 runs, even if I'm the pitcher, like, yeah, I want him to catch it, but I don't want him to run into a wall to catch a ball that a guy hit 410 feet off me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see
Yeah,
what
I'm
you
upset because he didn't catch it, but I'm more upset the fact that I gave up a freaking waffle ball to the wall. And it's like, that's my fault. That's not his for not catching it.
Yeah, I see what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's like catch the routine, all the routine stuff. Yeah, you want to do that 100% of the time. But all of a sudden, it's like the game's going to dictate on how hard you're really going to go after something based off of just the game. Like you got to be aware of your surroundings.
Yeah, like you don't want to see people like JBJ just like smashing into a wall in like an 8-1 game or something,
Yeah,
like
it's
in the
not.
late innings and risking getting himself injured just to make that catch.
Yeah, because we're gonna need guys like Jackie and Mookie and these guys that especially those years that I was in Boston. It's like as great as I want them to make that catch in May, we need them to make that catch in October a lot more than we need them to catch it in May, right?
Yeah.
So if they all of a sudden run into a wall and they tweak their back or they tweak something, it's like yeah, they probably can still play, but are they going to be able to sustain the rest of the season nursing a back? So now we might lose them for 10 days or 15 days. It's like, well, I don't want that for the team. Like, that doesn't make sense for the team. For me, it's a selfish thing saying, yeah, I want them to catch it. But it's like, you can't think selfishly. You got to think about the team in a whole because if the team wins, we get paid.
Yeah.
That's simple as it is. I mean, if teams that win, because that means you're going to win and that means you're gaining experience, and some teams pay for experience.
Yeah, no, that's so true. That's such a good way of putting it too. And at the end of the day, you don't want to see any of those key players getting injured, because you need them later on in the season.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to see anybody get hurt, right?
Yeah,
Like the last
exactly.
thing you want to see because you don't know, like, what happens if Benintendi breaks his wrist?
Yeah,
He doesn't become Benintendi that he is now. If he's a
yeah,
rookie and he's
true.
trying to run into a wall, next thing you know, it dislocates his shoulder. It's like, what's the point of that, right?
Yeah.
So like, you got to think of the future too. It's not always about right now. It's about in the future for them selfishly, but then as collectively as a team as well.
Yeah, I'm still thinking back to that diving catch he made against the Astros in that
Oh,
series in
dude, the
2018.
fact that
That was
he
just
dove for that as a rookie, like that,
I know.
I mean, that's some guts, like, because I mean, if you think about it, like, that's when I knew he was going to be a good player because I mean, there's a lot of guys that wouldn't take that risk. The fact that he didn't hesitate and he just did it, and obviously it worked out. But it's like you hope and pray that stuff like that always works out, because you don't know what the mental capacity is of a guy if he misses that and we lose the game, and next thing you know, we're down, right?
Yeah.
I think Benintendi would have been fine, but the fact that he made that decision to dive and didn't hesitate, I mean, just shows that he is a gamer, and that's who you want behind you.
Yeah, no, not even hesitating at all, just went for it, and he said, I can make this catch for my team right now," and it was obviously such a key catch.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that changed the whole complexity of that
Yeah, it
series.
did. It did. The momentum that I'm looking back at was like the momentum shift in the entire series right there.
That, and then the ball in right field when Mookie jumped up and the glove hit. The fact that
Yeah.
Joe West made that call and it was right. I mean, I still tell people, I was like, I obviously it helped us out, but it's the right call, because that's what people don't understand. If the player goes into the stands, then it doesn't matter. But the fact that when Mookie got to the wall, he went straight up, and then the fan came and hit his glove, that's interference. And the fact that it takes a guy like Joe West to make that call. And I know a lot of people don't like Joe West. I don't know him, but it takes somebody with his, I don't even know what the right word to say, his confidence to make that call, because it's right. And he knew he was going to get in Houston. He knew he was going to get crushed. But when you do the replay, it's the right call. And that's the thing, is that's where replay is great, right? Is because you got these fans that everybody's trying to get closer and closer to the field. But that's where replay is amazing, because they can go back and look and be like, no, it's the right call.
Yeah, and the more you looked at it, at first people weren't agreeing with the call, but then the more you looked at it, the more you kind of realized that it was correct.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It's a tough pill to swallow as a Houston fan, right? Like, you don't want to swallow that. If it was the opposite, I'd be pissed too.
Oh yeah, I would be. I'd be really angry.
It's the right call. It's like, what are you going to do at the end of the day? It's like, it is what it is.
Yeah. Nobody can change the outcome or say it wasn't right, because that just is what it is. But yeah, if I was an Astros fan, I would be really.
I tell everybody, get mad at Mookie for being such a great athlete.
Yeah. I know. I love Mookie. Yeah, I was so sad. I was so sad when Mookie got traded.
Oh man, yeah, that's tough. But I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, look at the money that he got. He's in the opportunity that he has. I mean, he's in an organization right now that it's the West Coast Boston Red Sox, right? Like the Dodgers right now they're the team to beat. Like, I mean, the Mets are making a run at it for sure, with with the signings that they have, but they still got to put it all together. Like the Dodgers got it put together.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, Mookie goes to LA and just immediately wins another World Series.
Yeah, I mean, and they're going to be in contention every year, and that's for somebody of his caliber. Like, it's not always about the money; it's about winning, right? Like, they want to win, because once you get to a certain bank account, so to say, like once you get to a certain amount of money, like, what's an extra 4 or 5 million when you've already got 300, right? But they would rather. So there's a lot of guys that I know that once they make a certain amount of money, it's like, well, now it's about winning. Like, I just want to win, right? So if I can get paid and win, hey, that's great, right? Like, I get an organization, but that doesn't happen for a lot of people. So a lot of guys just want to go to an organization like the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Giants, where they know that there's going to be a chance every single year that they're going to make a push for the playoffs.
Okay, yeah, that definitely makes sense, because if they want to win and they're in one of those organizations, they know that, they're going to be on a team that's going to be competitive and has a chance at it every year.
Every year, and that's why those teams are always there, because the owners are not afraid to go out and spend money to go out there and win. And you have some other organizations that they don't care about winning. They care about just making money, getting TV contracts, and doing all this to help themselves. And all of a sudden, they're not spending nothing on the players. They're not being competitive. They're not even making an attempt to be competitive. So you're basically can write in, if there's 8 teams, you can basically write in 6 every single year. You're always going to have, a couple sleepers that are going to, come in, which is fine, because at the end of the day, they're big league baseball players, right? Yeah. It doesn't matter if they're rookies or if they're veterans. They're all good enough. But at the end of the day, like you look at these organizations, and there's organizations that they'll never win because they don't care. Like, I don't care what they say. Like, actions speak louder than words. If they care, they would go out and they would pay the money to get the players. They would to go out there and be competitive. But there's teams out there, they'd rather get draft picks. They'd rather have a great minor league system. And they don't care if, I mean, they care enough to where they're like, yeah, well, we want to definitely not embarrass ourselves. But I don't even think they care about that.
Yeah.
If
I
you
mean,
think about it,
yeah, I mean, some teams, it's, I think about it and I'm like, well, what's their path? What direction are they trying to go in? I mean, even Baltimore is one of those teams. I'm just like, what are they trying to do exactly?
they're
You know?
rebuilding, restructuring.
They've
Yeah,
been
for 5
rebuilding
years,
forever
6
though.
years, 7 years. Like, how long do you need to restructure when you've
That's
got
what I mean.
coaches
Yeah.
out there that can't get jobs because they don't want to pay for what this guy that has 7, 8, 9 years in the league? They don't want to pay that. They'd rather pay a rookie that might be good. He might be really good, but he doesn't have the experience. How is that guy going to lead? Because all he's worried about is himself to get paid. When you get somebody that can bring these guys under their wing and teach them how to do the day-to-day activities, how to handle success, failure, the travel, the life, the day-to-day ins and outs of playing a Major League Baseball season, but they don't care. Like, they care about algorithms, they care about spin rate, they care about launch angle, they care about all this. They don't care about what you've done in the past. They care about what your Rapsodo numbers are, what your Hawkeye numbers are, which all your TrackMan numbers are. That's where their game's going. That's where everybody is scouting off of electronics. They're forgetting that you still got to get guys out.
Yeah.
You still got to get guys. I don't give a crap what your
though.
Rapsodo numbers are. If you can't get guys out, how the hell is that going to help the team win?
Yeah, it's not.
It's not. That's who's running the games now. It's the people. It's the guys that know how to read the numbers. Those are the guys that are running the teams. You're seeing these pitching coaches and all these front office people that are firing coaching staffs, but you don't see nobody from the analytical department getting fired. They're the ones
Yeah.
making the lineups. They're the ones that are running the show because of somebody's Rapsodo numbers or their Hawkeye numbers or their gyros not gyroing enough. It's like,
yeah, I feel like too much is about analytics, and it's. I mean, there's a lot of decisions that are made based solely on that, and I feel like that's detrimental to the game of baseball.
I agree. I think it's great. I really do. Like, because I was out a year and then I played last year. And so that was my first experience with all this technology. And I think it's fantastic, but it's just too much at times. We're worrying about, a guy's spin rate when it's like this guy's sitting here throwing a 50 pitch bullpen in between. And I was like, and you're caring more about his spin rate, velocity, his gyro, his access, and all this stuff. But he's throwing 98 down the middle of the damn plate. Oh, but his spin rate's good. His gyro's good. The location sucks. The fact that everything is about spin, and that's where you get to the sticky stuff, right? Is because that's where the game took it. Because it's just like anything else. Everybody was worried about spin rate. They're worried about all these other things that this, Rapsodo and Hawkeye and all this stuff can do, to where they're like, well, I got to figure out a way to separate myself, right? So it's like, if I can get an extra 250 RPMs on my curveball or my fastball, well, how you get that naturally, right? It's just like steroids. How do you gain an extra 15 feet? Your body can only get so strong, so you got to supplement that. And it's the same thing with the spin rate. All of a sudden, these guys are like, well, crap, like my spin rate is not improving, right? So, well, let me try a little pine tar. Well, then they get a little bit. Well, shoot, now we got spider tack, or you got all these other things that now all of a sudden you're like, crap, like it don't matter if they can't throw it for a strike. It's got good spin rate and it's got good access. So therefore, I'm better than everybody else. But then you look at guys like a Josh Tomlin, who just goes up there and he just pitches. He in, out, up, down, sinks it, cuts it, goes forward and back. But if you look at his, I don't know what his Rapsodo numbers are, but they're not going to be nothing like some of these other guys. But yet this guy goes out there and he grinds out and he wins. So it's like, at the end of the day, but he's a veteran. He costs too much.
Yeah. No, that's such a good point too. And there's just so many teams that have that mindset, I feel like. And if you have that mindset, you're not going to win anything.
No, you're
I don't know
not.
about
I
you.
mean, I would say the best teams right now that are able to utilize, in my opinion, that are able to utilize the data and then how to coach and recruit or scout, recruits more college, but is the Tampa Bay Rays,
Yeah, I
like
was gonna say
them
the
right there,
Rays.
like
They're really good at that.
I don't know anybody in their organization, but like I remember like kind of like, wow, these guys are stupid, right? Like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
But it's
How are
working.
they this
Like,
good?
it's working. Like they figured out that they know how to invest the money that they need to invest in the players, but in the personnel and the data and the people that know how to take the data and to transfer it into, in I guess nice words, dumb it down to how it's going to affect the players to play better versus just saying we need to get your gyro here, we need to do this, right? So they learn how to coach and to teach and to pitch and hit and all these other things. And the other one is the Giants. Like I know Brian Bannister's over there, and he, in my opinion, he's one of the best pitching coaches as far as taking data and teaching what the data means and how it affects me personally on how I can get better from the data, not just saying, here's the data, here's the numbers. Because at the end of the day, I throw knuckleballs, right? Like spin rate is nothing for me, right? But there are data out there that I can use to help me be consistent, because at the end of the day, it's all feel. But yeah, so yeah, but you're right. Like it's the data is great, but it's what you do with that data is what's going to separate you. And right now, those are the two teams that are doing the best, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the Rays seem to have figured out a pretty good balance of everything because that is a team that if you looked at that team on paper, they would have had no business being in the World Series in 2020
No,
at
none,
all. Literally
nothing.
at all. With the players that they had, I mean, that I was just amazed that they made that work. Really.
The only thing they screwed up is taking out Blake Snell.
Yeah, I know. That was that that was so bad. I don't know
Your
what
Cy Young Award winner, your ace, and he had like 15 punch outs in 5 innings,
against those players that were coming up in the
one
Dodgers
hit or two
organization.
hits or whatever it was. Oh no. The numbers say we need to go
Yeah.
with our bullpen. It's like, dude, the Dodgers were just licking their chops saying, thank you.
Yeah,
Like, I don't
seriously,
care
because
if you bring in
that's
a
what
lefty throwing
ended it.
100. I don't care. Like, it's not Snail.
Yeah, really, that's what ended it because the Dodgers were probably so relieved to not see him on the mound anymore. But had he stayed in, he was looking really good, and I think the Rays had a really good chance of winning that game if they kept him in.
That's the one problem with the numbers and the
Yep.
algorithms and all these geeks that are up in the stairs that never played baseball in their life, but they're sitting here trying to tell baseball players how to be a baseball player when they can't even throw a baseball, right?
Yeah.
Because they're doing it off of the numbers, right? And I think that they're a huge asset, but in situations like that, they become a liability because now all of a sudden it has to be a game time decision. And that's one thing I love about Alex Cora. Alex
I'm
Cora
sitting
is
here
a
about
guy that he understands all of the data. He's got a great crew behind him, and he himself understands that all that data has a purpose, right? But at the end of the day, it's about baseball. So, like, it's gut feelings, it's having that gut and sticking to that gut and not being afraid to make that decision, regardless of what the data says. And that's the managers that he's gonna be a Hall of Fame manager, in my opinion, because he understands that he's gonna take care of his players. He's gonna sit out guys. Like if he's got a time where I remember one time I think it was either Mookie or JD, and it was like it was probably like early in the season, like May, middle of May, right? But he had played like every day, right? And so they gave him a day off. And perfect opportunity, like when Alex Cora says you got a day off as a position player, you got a day off. That's it. You got a day off, right? Like
it.
you can't say, hey, you got a day off, and then you got to pinch hit in the 7th inning, right? Like some circumstances are going to change that. But if he says you got a day off, you got to
You're
shut
not
the
playing.
run off. Like it's because it's a long season. We need him more in September and October than we do in May, right? And so there was a situation, and I can't remember who we were playing. I can't remember that, but I remember like he said he had a day off. game came up to the later in the inning where it was like, or later in the game where it was like perfect opportunity for that guy to pinch hit, first and third, 2 outs or whatever the situation was. He's got the day off. So they pinch hit somebody else who's not them, and he got out. And everybody's howling. I'm like, oh, why didn't you pitch it as a perfect opportunity? No. When I tell a guy he's got a day off, he's got a day off.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can't expect people to come in and pinch hit on a day off.
And he's the type of manager that if you're in the big leagues with him, it doesn't matter if you got a day in the league or you're JD or David Ortiz. Like he's going to treat you like, hey, you're an asset. Like you're part of this team. You're going to help us win. It doesn't matter. Everybody's got a role, and that role is to help the team win. And their job as coaches is to prepare the player to go out there, just like my job as a player is to prepare myself physically and mentally. And they're going to do the same thing. And then it's a team. It's collective. That's why I think Boston's going to they're going to have some good years coming up, I think, personally.
I mean, based on 2021, when they surprised everybody, and that was the team that nobody thought was even going to be a playoff team. So that gets me really excited for, the next few years and just kind of what they have coming up, even in the farm system. They have some good prospects down there too now.
That's
so
awesome.
I think they're in good shape. And I mean, I think Alex Cora is a big part of that. I'm sure you can, probably agree on this, that, I feel like the manager, it makes a big difference. And I can kind of tell just from watching it that these players really respect Alex Cora and really enjoy playing for him. And he's been described as a player's coach a lot of times. Like, how do you feel like that kind of separates him from other managers?
I mean, I do. I think so. I mean, because I remember one of my favorite minor league coaches that I ever played for is this guy named Chris Tremmy. And Tremmy everybody was like, oh, he's a player's coach. He's a player's coach. Like, and in the minor leagues, it's tough because there's only so much you can do as a coach because you're being told who to play, right? Like, you got to play your prospects. You got to give these guys days off. Like, but he protected the players, and that's the thing you got to understand. Like, when you're talking about a player's coach, what is the definition of a player's coach, right? It's a guy that puts his players in front of him. Right? It's not about him. It's about the players. And sometimes you get it reversed to where it's more about the coach and about him succeeding. And it's all about him. It's all about him getting the accolades. It's him going out there. Alex Cora was one of the best second baseman, middle infielders to play the game. He did it as a player. He's done it as a coach. So, like, what does he have to prove, right? The only way for him to succeed in his job, to get accolades for him, is if the players succeed. Right. And he remembers what it's like to be a player. He knows the struggle. He knows the grind, both on and off the field, of what's going on. Like, if you got something going on off the field, like, and you let him know, like, he's going to protect you. He's going to do whatever he can because that is going to benefit the team. And if it benefits the team, it's going to benefit him. Right. And he's not selfish. He's not thinking like that. Right. Like, he's not thinking, oh, if I take care of these, then I'm going to get taken care of. That's not his mentality, but that's how it works. So that is a player's coach. It's a coach that puts his players in front of him, and he's going to do everything he can to protect his players. And if the players know that, the players are going to do everything they can to protect him. And the way you protect a coach is to win. That's the only way, because the first person to go is the manager.
Yeah.
And that's a player's coach. And that's Alex Cora in a nutshell. If there's a definition, his picture's next to it.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, and I could just tell that, even just from watching games, just how much these players really, really respect and love Alex Cora. And I feel like that's just so important, having that player-manager relationship, especially because going back to the long season thing, you need to be able to trust your manager and respect your manager and vice versa. And I feel like that really can impact the team chemistry. That is obviously a huge part of winning as well.
Totally. And he makes it fun. I mean, he makes it enjoyable because it is a long season, and he puts family first. He cares more about family than any manager that I've ever played for. Like, that's his, and that shows that, like, if that's what's important to him, that's what's important to me. That makes me love him even more, because if I come to him one day and I'm like, hey man, my daughter or my son or whatever is having a hard day, it's like, well, go be with them. and then come back. Let me know when you're ready, right? Or let me know what's going on. He asked, dude, I still text him, like, not often, but he texts me back, right? Like, no other manager would do that. I haven't played for him in 3 years. But
Yeah.
that just shows the type of person that he is. And that's why guys should want to go play for him.
Yeah. And, and obviously playing in Boston must be such a fun atmosphere too. And Fenway Park, there's so much history there. And so I feel like there's just a lot of good things about playing in a city like Boston.
I mean, I love Boston. I mean, it's hard. I mean, when you're going good, like, it's the best city. When you're going bad, they let you know.
Yeah.
Not that you need to be reminded, but I think that's what makes Boston so much different and so much, it's so much more excitement about playing in Boston. It is tough to play. But one thing I loved is the fact that it didn't matter if we were in last place or first place. When you played at Fenway Park, there's no way you can't get amped. It doesn't matter if it's 20 degrees or 110 degrees. Like, it doesn't matter when you're in Fenway Park with the crowds and the passion that everybody has. Like, it's very easy just to get psyched up, right? And then you go to something like Oakland, you're like, crap, like, this place sucks, right? But it's like with Boston, it's like it doesn't matter. Everywhere you go in Boston, it's like that you have a chance to win. You're going to have a great fans. Obviously, if I had some off the field stuff that sucked, and they let me know. But at the end of the day, like, they forgive too.
Yeah.
There's some people that are, that get gung ho, but usually those are the people that are living in their mama's basement. They're trying to do a blog that think that, they know everything about sports. It's like, you don't know nothing.
Yeah.
You just know what you're told and what you read. But
And then all these people on social media that think that
yeah,
they
I
know
mean, I don't even look at that no more, because it's like you read some of the stuff, and it's like they just read the titles.
Yeah.
They don't read nothing else. And it's like they read the title, oh, he's a bad guy. It's like, you don't even know what the hell happened. And I was
Yeah,
like,
you weren't
one,
there.
it's none of your damn business what happened. And it's like, I don't have to explain myself to somebody I don't even know. Why do I have to explain to some freaking Joe Blow on Twitter that's in his mama's basement, and he's 38 years old and he's never had a job? He's still in his freaking mama's sweatpants. And it's like, you expect me to sit here and defend myself against that guy? Like, no.
Yeah,
but that's what I love about Boston, is because most people know that guy. It's like nobody, like, when I talk to the media, so I still talk to some of the media guys, like, just texts here and there, because it's like, even though I always told the media, I said, listen, if I suck, just write it. I know I suck. Like, it doesn't matter. And I was like, but don't throw me under the bus, right? Like, you don't got to drag it on and throw salt on the wound. Like, I sucked. I get it. Like, but, it's like, it is what it is. But that's what makes Boston so much different than any other organization, is that everybody cares so much about winning. It's like, when it's summertime, it's all about the Red Sox. When it's wintertime, it's all about the Patriots, and then the Celtics, and then the Bruins. Like, it's all in on those sports for the seasons. And that's just what makes it so fascinating as a city in a whole, because it's really not a big city. In my opinion, it's not a big city, but it has that big city feel because of the passion behind everything.
Yeah, I was going to say the Boston sports fans are very, very passionate about these teams. And I'm sure that was brought out, when you were playing there. You could just kind of tell just how much they loved these teams.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like, there's no doubt. I mean, you could tell if the teams are winning, you can feel the vibe in the city. And if we're losing, you can feel that too. And it sucks. I've been part of 2 last place teams and 5 first place teams. So it's like, you can tell, like, the huge shift from 13, where it was way up here, 14
was way down
15, here. And then it's like 16, we came back around. It's like, wow, like, it is just like completely different, but that's what makes it exciting.
Yeah, that is super cool. And that's why it's a great, fan base to be a part of too, because everyone loves the teams just as much as I do, and is just so invested, you know what I mean, in the teams. And that's got to be cool for a player, just knowing how, supportive everyone is, and just how much they love watching the team play.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell who the passionate fans are that aren't just the average, I'm coming to Boston, I'm going to a Fenway game. Like, majority, like, I would say over 50%, if not more, of people that are at Red Sox games are diehards. And then the other tourists, right? The other tourists, like, if you go to Boston, you gotta go to Fenway.
Yeah,
Right?
you can't
That's
not.
the tourist attraction, right? But for the half that stadium, they're like, especially in right field.
Diehard fans, yeah.
Those are the diehards. Because those are the only tickets they can afford because they're like $250.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's so no, it is actually so true though. Like
Yeah,
those,
it is.
those are like the go-to seats.
I mean, it's the only ones you can get for a reason. Well, then you got to charge $30 to get a beer. It's like,
Yeah, it's
God damn, you
ridiculous.
get a Fenway dog for $8. You can go to 7-Eleven across the street and get it for 99 cents.
It's so true though. Yeah, when getting beer there, I'm like, I could literally get a 6-pack of this same thing for cheaper at a package store right now.
Oh, 100%. It's crazy. But, that's the experience. People know when you
Yes.
go, you're going to spend $500 on
Yeah,
food.
exactly. I mean, but there's nothing like being at a game though. It's just so fun being there in person, and it's just
Totally,
so
yeah.
cool.
No, I
Um,
agree. I mean, even being as a player, I mean, I made my major league debut there, and it's like
yeah.
that's the coolest thing ever. It's like Fenway Park, like the oldest ballpark in America, probably in the world. It's got to be up there at least. I don't know like what the data is on that, but dude, you can't script a major league debut except for the weather. The weather was normal April weather in Boston, but
Can't
which
help that.
no, it was brutal. But you're in the big leagues. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if you're playing in a city like that, you have to be prepared for that type of weather to just be there too, because that's
Oh,
just
the day
how it
before
is,
it was
you know?
68 and sunny, and then I wake up and it was 25 and snowing.
That sounds right. Yeah, that sounds
Yeah, it was
exactly
a
right. That
typical
is exactly what
spring
that's
Boston
exactly
weather.
what New England weather is in the
Yeah,
winter. Yeah, exactly, to a T. That sums it up for sure.
yeah.
How are you able to kind of block out distractions from, fans or anything else going on in the stadium, like while you're on the pitcher's mound?
Honestly, like when you're on the mound, like you don't hear anything. Like you get so focused and locked in, and like you definitely hear the cheers, but that kind of gets you revved up. But you got to understand when you're pitching, like you can't let outside noise, whether it's the outcome of the game, whether it's the whatever the situation is, it doesn't matter. Especially for a knuckleballer, I got one job to do, and that is to throw a quality knuckleball.
Yeah.
Like so for me, like all of that, like you hear it, but you just over the years of pitching, you learn to it doesn't matter. Like you do good or bad, I don't hear nothing. So you can scream and yell at me. It doesn't bother me because I don't hear it. Like it kind of is like in here what the out the other because my focus is on the job that I need to do every pitch. And so that's so pitching, but you definitely feel the excitement in Boston, but it doesn't matter whether you're in Boston or New York or LA, Chicago, it doesn't matter to me, like, because to me, it's still 60 feet, 6 inches. Like, I still got that guy's trying to crush me and I'm trying to get him out. So that's my focus. And so
Yeah,
everything else is just kind of there.
background noise.
Yeah, it's background noise.
Yeah, yeah, because you just kind of drown everything out because you're just
100%.
focusing on
Yeah.
that
Got to
one
clear
thing.
the mechanism.
Yeah, I mean, you have to because
Yeah.
because like you have to be so focused during a game.
100%. Because the moment you lose focus, that's when you lose. That's when you give up a home run, and you're still going to give up home runs, right? Even if you're focused and you're locked in. But it's all about percentages, right? Like if it's the game's already hard enough, so why am I going to let outside distractions affect me when it's nothing but between the ears that it's going to affect? And that is what's going to get me over the hump, or it's going to keep me steady. But the moment you let all that other stuff come in, it's very tough to zone it back in.
Yeah, and baseball very much is the type of sport where if you lose focus, that can affect everybody.
Totally.
And that's kind
Yeah.
of it's just it's just crazy just how focused you have to be for the entirety of that 9 innings.
Yeah. But that's all sports, like
Yeah.
even with football. That's with, because if you look at like football, right? Like you one time, if a lineman all of a sudden like just screws up one time, that can affect the outcome of the game.
Mhm.
He sacks quarterback fumbles, so there's a lot of scenarios, and that's what makes teams great, right? Like there's a lot of good teams, but what makes a team great is everybody has a job. They stick to their job, trusting that the guy behind him or the guy next to him is going to do their job. right? So as long as you know what your job is, you do your job, and everybody has that same mentality, that's going to help collectively move as a group and as a unit. And then once you can move as a unit, and then you can start making things happen. Look at all those Patriots teams, right? Like Tom Brady became Tom Brady because Tom Brady's really freaking good,
Yeah,
but he also had an unbelievable front line. He had
exactly. Yeah,
unbelievable receivers. Yes, over the years, he made them even better. But the reason that he became Tom Brady is because of the people that were around him. He did his job better than anybody else. But the only way he could do his job is if everybody else around him did their job,
yeah,
right? And so
exactly.
it's
It's
the
so
same
true.
thing with Jordan, with LeBron, with Kobe. Those guys are unbelievable athletes. But you don't win champ. You can win games and MVPs and all this stuff. You can't win championships if you don't have a team,
Yeah,
right? The team has to. You can. One guy can't do everything. I don't basketball maybe a little bit, but even then, like if you don't have a supporting cast that knows their role and can consistently do their role, you're not going to win championships. It's not going to happen. You need everybody. In baseball, you need 1 to 25. Because if you look at 18, who is our World Series MVP?
yeah. I mean, it's in those situations, I feel like it's like you can't like sometimes it's the players that you don't expect them to be. Like Steve Pierce, for example, like you know what I mean? Like you bring
No,
him
like
in,
if you think
who
about it,
expects
we
him to
traded
play
for like I talk to Steve Pierce almost every day, right? He
like
is
that
a
was such a
very good
that
friend of
was
mine.
so
I've,
unexpected.
I've known him for a long time, but why did we trade for him? We needed a bat off the bench. We need somebody to come in late in the game to pick up JD, to pick up guys that needed some time off. But he was experienced. This is where the Red Sox are good because they went after experience, right? He was a 8-9 year vet. He had a lot of experience playing in the East because he played for all the teams in the AL East, and he was an experienced bat off the bench, right? Did anybody ever think he was going to become that?
No.
We all knew he was good enough to do that,
Yeah,
but everybody was expecting Mookie Betts or JD
I
Martinez or
was.
Bogey or Devers to go off or somebody that everybody was expecting. Next thing you know, freaking Piercy comes out and all of a sudden he starts waffling balls out of the stadium. And
Okay,
but
where'd this
that's
come
what it
from?
takes. But that's what it takes to win, right? It takes Chris Sale having a messed up shoulder at the time, but saying, you know what, I might not be able to start, but I could pitch 1 inning. Now all of a sudden, boom, we got another closer, right?
Yeah.
And it's like all of a sudden Rick Porcello, right? I go down because of my knee, and next thing you know, Rick, they're like, "Hey, we need you to go to the bullpen. You got it." Rick's never thrown out of the bullpen since his rookie year, right? But he knew that's what it needs to do for us to win. He was able to swallow. He's the most professional player I've ever played with because not just because of that, but same thing with Evaldi, right? Evaldi was supposed to start. We need him out of the pen. He goes friggin' 9 innings or whatever the
That was
hell he threw. I
incredible.
mean, we the thing is people don't understand. Yes, we lost that game, but we won that series because of Nathan Evaldi. Because Nathan Evaldi picked up enough innings to where all of our bullpen guys were going to be fresh enough for the next day. We didn't have to use 8-9 guys that are in roles that they're not used to using, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't go out there and throw a Craig Kimbrell for 2 innings.
No.
Maybe once, but you can't do that, right? You can't have guys go out there and all of a sudden they're used to throwing 1, 2 innings. Now they're going 3 or 4 innings. Nate, he could throw 120 pitches, and he did. And it's not so much about what happens now. It's what happens now is going to affect what happens tomorrow. And that's why we won. It's things like that with guys that you just don't expect because everybody expects, Mookie and Trout and these guys to go out, but that's what the other team is expecting too. So
Yeah.
those are the guys that they're careful with because you can't let the big guys beat you. You need a Pierce. You need guys off the bench to come up and step up. And when they do, teams win championships.
Yeah, that was just so unexpected. I kept saying, where did this come from? But that's so true, though, because it's guys like that who people don't expect if they can step up in those big situations and, assume those types of roles. Then those are what make really good teams, and
100%.
that was a huge part of that World Series.
Yeah, totally.
I was so happy for him. I was like, who would have thought before this series that, he would end up being the one that ended up doing what he did. You know what I mean?
Oh, dude, it's so exciting. I mean, I think it's the coolest thing ever because it's like, he got 10 years. He finally got a World Series and an MVP.
This is so cool.
What a good way to go out. It's like,
Yeah.
you think about his entire career, he was a role player. He was
Yeah.
very good at what he did, but he was hardly, I don't even think he was ever an everyday player. And then all of a sudden he got an opportunity to do it and he did it.
Yeah, he stepped up when he needed to step
Yeah,
up.
he
They
did.
needed
I
somebody
mean,
to be huge, and it was him. And it was really, really cool to watch him in that series. Really
and he's
cool.
a great guy. I love that guy. I mean, I literally talk to him almost every day. So
Really.
he's an awesome dude. He's very humble, and those are the guys that you root for as far as teammates because that the type of person he is. He's not going to let it go to his head.
Yeah, which is those are the types of people that you like, that you want to keep rooting for.
Totally.
What is that feeling like of being part of a World Series team? Like that feeling of winning the World Series?
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, because everything is like a blur. Like you enjoy it. For me, I was definitely frustrated because I was supposed to be a big part of that team,
Yeah.
and then just my knee, and just with the rehab stuff I was doing. I mean, just there's a lot of things we just didn't know because nobody had really had that surgery, and so it sucked because I wanted to be a part of it, but it was fun because I know that I was a part to get to the playoffs, and but just to be there and just to celebrate because I wasn't there in 13, so I was on the team, but I got sent home because I wasn't going to be a part of that team. I mean, we had veterans galore on that team, but this team, the 18 team, was like it was just such a good group. With having Alex kind of be the leader and just how like unorthodox things that he did at the time, and you're like, man, like why would he like? We never had a shag. Bullpen guys never shag, right? Which is like completely not normal, right?
Yeah.
Save your legs for the game. Why stand? And at the time, you're like, God dang, that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
you got these bullpen guys. Like if you think we go out there, we play catch, we work out, we do our stuff, and then we got to stand around for 2 hours to shag, to go inside, to have enough time to maybe shower, grab a bite to eat, sit down for and then you got to go out like you're on your feet all the time every single day. Save your legs, go inside. And it's like, wow, that makes sense. It's stuff like that to where now teams are more likely to do that. But at the time, nobody was doing that. But that's Alex, right? Like he was always thinking about because he knew what it was like to be a player. Get what you need. Don't get more. Don't get less. Get what you need on whatever you need. We'll do it. And then we'll move on. And so but being part of that team was like, dude, it was that party we had after that was crazy too.
I'm sure. I'm sure it probably was. Yeah.
You gotta look up the bar tab.
I'm so curious.
Look
That
it up.
I can't even imagine. My
Just
God.
type in Red Sox LA bar bill. It was 6 figures.
In 2018. Oh my gosh.
It was over $500,000.
Wow. You guys know how to have fun. That is awesome. That's fantastic. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that year was just so fun in general, though, because the Red Sox just won so much that it was just so fun to watch.
We didn't know how to lose.
Yeah, you really didn't.
Like we had games where like we had no reason. We had a game. I'll never forget it because I wasn't supposed to be a starter. So going into that year, I had my knee issues coming back, and all I was supposed to do was just relieve 2 innings, 3 innings max, depending on how the first two went. And because it's the up and downs, it wasn't the pitching; it was the up and downs that I wasn't accustomed to doing because my leg just wasn't. It wasn't 100%, but it was good enough to pitch, and especially out of the bullpen. Well, then I ended up having to start. So then I had like 3 starts in a row of shutout, but my knee was like, I was kept telling myself, man, I don't know if my knee can do this. I don't know if I can. And then I had a game in Boston against Seattle, and I had just pitched against Seattle my previous start and I went into the 7th inning with no runs, but it just wasn't feeling good at all. And I think I gave up. God, I went like 4 1/3 innings, and I think I gave up like 10 runs.
Yeah, I think I kind
It
of remember
was
that.
something crazy, like 9 or 10, 11 runs, and I got a no decision. I came out, we were down like 11-2 or 11-1, no decision. I'm like, oh my God. Like, we had no reason to win that game at all. I thought I was pissed off because I came out in the fifth. I was like, I don't give a crap if I gave up 12 runs. If I go, oh, sorry, my thing cut off. But yeah, so like, I just, whenever, if you give up runs, just go deep into a game. It's like at least it's not a win, but it's not a loss either, because it's like you got to think about your bullpen, right?
Yes.
So it's like you don't want to come out in the second or third inning because now your bullpen's got to pick up all these extra innings. So if I give up runs, it's like, yeah, it sucks. I don't want to give up runs. But if I give up freaking 8 runs, but if I go 7 innings, yeah, I'm pissed off I gave up the 8 runs, but I went 7 innings.
Yeah. So you
And if
saved your
you're on the
bullpen
road, you
from.
only got to pick up 1 inning.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's like, but anyways, back to your point, like all of a sudden, like I'm looking up at the scoreboard and it's the seventh inning, we're down by 2. We're like, I was like, holy crap. I was like, we might win this freaking game. And
This
then all
team
of a
is so
sudden, like we tied it up, and I was like, wow, like spit that hook out. Like,
Yeah, that team was so just relentless and
oh, it was
unbelievable
crazy,
to
man.
watch.
What
Yeah,
were
there.
we, 118 wins or something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was so nice just seeing wins pretty much every night on my TV.
Dude, we didn't lose. Like we didn't know how to lose. And it's going to be tough to ever get a team like that collectively because we had guys that came up for like a week or a couple days that made a huge impact, right? And it's just like it just wasn't their time to stay, right? Like, we had guys that would come up and you're like, man, like if we didn't have Mookie in right field, Jackie in center, and Benintendi in left, you might have a chance.
Yeah, really though, it's so true.
I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, that's the thing about baseball or any sports. Like, there's so many guys that are just as good, but if there's nowhere to go, like look at all the guys that came up in the minor leagues for the Yankees for 22 years as a shortstop. Guess what they had to do? They had to learn how to play second and third and then first or outfield. They're not playing over Derek Jeter.
Yeah, exactly.
You look at all the times with the Red Sox with Petey over at second. Like, I'm sorry, like Dustin Pedroia, I would put him over anybody else ever at second base for me. If I want somebody behind I want to pick him, right? Yeah. That's reality, right? So it's like it sucks because I'm sure there's guys that, if given the same opportunity that Petey earned when he came up, they might be the next Dustin Pedroia. Wrong. You're just in the wrong spot.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Just kind of the wrong team at that time because you're not going to be able to play that position at that time. So you either have to
if you do, you're not going to play often to show what you can do, and that is what makes playing at the big league level or getting to the big leagues hard. But once you get there, it's harder to stay. There's a lot of guys that have made it to the big leagues, but not a lot of people that have made it past 1 year, let alone get to 10.
Yeah, it's tough. And I mean, that's such a good point because sometimes people don't think about that. It's like, yeah, this player is super talented and could be really, really good at this position. But if they already have somebody who's there that is, their guy at that position, then it's like, then what does that player do? I mean, their best option is to probably go to another team or try to find another position that they can
either find another position or you go to another organization that you have an opportunity to do. And that's what it's like, that's what is nice about some of these bad organizations is it gives guys more of an opportunity to play at the big league level. But it sucks because they're never going to win.
Yeah, so it's kind of
it's like a catch-22. Like you want to make it to the big leagues, which is great because that's everybody's dream and goal, but you also want to win. And if you win, that means you're going to play and be better because you're going to every game you go out there, you're playing for something. But if you're a team like last year, like the Pirates, which I love everybody on that team. I loved everybody in the organization. They're all extremely nice. But when you're 30 games out of first place halfway through the season, like it's really tough to go and play unless you're a rookie. because now you're like, wow, I'm playing just to get experience, right? And it's not that you can't do that, but it's really hard mentally to get up every single game knowing that it's like I'm just playing for myself now.
Yeah, I see what you mean because it's like our team is clearly not going to win anything this year, so we're just kind
Yeah.
of playing these games, just kind of going through the
When they
motion.
start making moves, it's like, well, I guess we're not going to win next year either. It's like,
And especially if you're a veteran, because like you said with the rookie, to get experience is good. But if you're a veteran who's been in the league for a while and you're on a team like that, then what are you playing for? You
no, I
know?
mean, you're just playing to hopefully, for me, I did it. One, I didn't have many options. And
Yeah.
two, I just needed to show that I was healthy, that I could pitch. And that was an organization that, Ben Sherrington's awesome. I love Ben. Like, Ben, he traded for me with the Indians to the Red Sox, and then he signed me with the Pirates. And so, like, he definitely gave me a lot of opportunities that nobody else was going to give me. Uh, but yeah, it's just tough. He's in a tough spot. You go from the budget of the Red Sox to the budget of the Pirates. Like, it's just you really have to try to figure out how to do that, and it's really hard. It's really hard. I think that they can do it because some of the guys that I played with in the minor leagues, like they're going to be pretty good. Like Brian Hayes, like I think he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Like, I mean, Hall of Famer might be a little far fetched because he's only got like a year in the league. He's going to be a Gold Glover. He's going to be All Star if he can stay healthy because like he reminds me of like a bogey. Like, a guy that you're just like, he can pretty much do anything. He can hit it to right field. He can hit it to left field. His glove is amazing. He's got a good arm. He's pretty quick. But he's with the Pirates.
Well, that's all, that's what I mean. There's always that but that
Yeah, there is. I
not
mean,
going
if
to
he
win
was with the
there.
Red Sox, I mean, obviously they got Devers, but I mean, honestly, like I'd take Keith Bryant over Devers.
Really?
Devers is unbelievable. And Devers is since the first year I played with him till now, he's a completely different player. And he's unbelievable. But if I had to pick those two, I would go with Keith Bryant.
That's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. And then for somebody like him, it would be nice for him to be there because at least with the Red Sox, he knows that, like we talked about before, that he can, be on a competitive team there that has a chance at a World Series run.
Yeah. The hardest thing I would say in playing in Boston is can you handle the pressure? Because
Mhm.
there's no pressure playing in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, because there's no
Even
expectations.
like Oakland, there's no pressure, right? Like you go to
There's no
even like
expectations
yeah,
there.
some of these other teams, like even if you're winning, like the pressure is not like it is in Boston. Like
Okay.
there's no Philly is I heard Philly is probably the closest to the pressure of the sports than Boston. And so it's like it's win now. Like we should have won. Like everything. Oh, we should have won. We should have won. It's like if you go to Anaheim, it's like they care about the experience of the fans. In Boston, it's about winning, the team winning. Who gives a shit about they have a bounce house in right field, right?
Yeah.
Think about
Yeah.
it. Like look
No,
at some
it's
of
so
these
true.
other teams. It's all about the fan experience, not the game.
Yeah, in Boston, everyone's so the expectations are really high. The expectations are that the team is winning.
Yeah. They made something great for little kids. It's like, okay, send them to Wally's World down in right field. Other than that, it's baseball.
Yeah, and you don't get that in every city.
No, you don't get it anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, Baltimore's kind of like that, but they're kind of going off the side. Honestly, I don't know. Even Yankee Stadium's not like the new one. Like, it's not like that. Not like it
Yeah.
was at the old stadium. So it's like, in that LA Dodgers is probably the next. The
Okay.
Dodgers is like that. The Dodgers, it's about baseball. That's why you're there. You're there to watch a team win, and that's it.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
I went to a Dodgers game once at Dodger Stadium, and it
and
was kinda like
you survived.
barely.
Yeah, that place is crazy.
Yeah, I remember my friend got, like, beer spilled all over her,
Oh yeah,
when we first walked in, she had just bought it, and that was, like, my first memory of Dodger Stadium.
yeah. People get beat up all the time just because them and Raider fans.
I don't think I think I've only met, like, 1 or 2 Raiders fans in my life.
Oh, you would know. You know right away.
It's kinda like Cowboys fans are like that too, I feel like.
Yeah, America's team, right? Yeah,
You
you
know
got
right away that they that
yeah.
they're Cowboys fans too
It's so
because 'cause
much
they're
pride for a team that doesn't win.
yeah, seriously, a team that, like, consistently, like, fails in the playoffs, if
Yeah,
they can make the playoffs.
but
But
maybe next year.
next year is our year.
Yeah,
Every
every
single year.
year. The next year's our year. It's like all right.
Yeah, we'll see, Cowboys fans. We'll see.
Yeah. One of these days, get Emmett Smith and Troy Aikman back, and then you might have a chance.
Yeah, right. Other than that, probably not.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I really appreciate you joining me on the show. I think this was great. I hope everybody, enjoyed it. I hope we get a baseball season this year to start with.
Yeah.
And if we do get it, I hope it starts relatively on time. But we'll see
Yeah,
about.
we'll see. It's
Yeah,
gonna be interesting. I honestly haven't even been paying attention. I think the owners are just greedy.
yeah,
Honestly, like people
yeah,
always talk about players being greedy. It's the owners. Like they want to make as much money as they can. They're business people. They want profit margins. They don't want to pay somebody what they're worth, and that's what I tell people about baseball, in general. Like these guys are smart. Like they're not going to pay somebody $40 million a year if they're going to lose money, right? So they're going to win, but they want profit margins. They're going to try to keep as much money themselves from the TV deals, advertisements. They don't want to pay the players because they want their profit margins to be bigger because that's going to bring their net worth up. And it's like you got to put the money back in the players. The players are the product, right? Like that's who's going to play. That's who's going to bring more wins. But when you got half the league that doesn't care about winning, it's those owners are running it like it's a business. It is a business, right? Like the owners need to make money. Like there's no way around it, right? But like when you got guys like the owner of the Mets, right, Cohen, or you got John Henry, and you got the Dodgers, right, with the Magic Johnson and those guys over there, like they're showing that if you spend money, it's going to come back, right? As long as you know what you're doing, what you're spending on, and you got to be within reason, right? But when they start making these competitive balance taxes, but then they don't need that money doesn't go back to the players, it goes to the organization. It's like that's great, you should do that already. But the whole point of a competitive balance tax is to make you competitive, right? And when you got teams like the Marlins and the Pirates, and you got some of these teams that they're not even spending money in free agency on anybody. Like it doesn't have to, you don't have to go out and sign a $20 million a year guy, but you could take that 20 million and give it to five guys. Well, now all of a sudden you got maybe a front of line starter, right? Or you got a back of the end bullpen, or maybe you got a power hitter, right? But they don't care. They go younger because it's cheaper. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, the players are greedy because we're holding out to get an extra $2 million. We got a window this big to make as much money as we can, right? And yes, you don't want to be greedy, right? But at the end of the day, like you got to go with what is your worth is for the team and how much money am I going to make that owner. So it's like that's how you dictate on how much a guy should get paid. Because if a Max Scherzer goes out there, everybody's coming to see Max Scherzer. Everybody's coming to see Garrett Cole. Everybody's coming to see Trout and Mookie and these guys. That's who they're coming to see, right? So they should get paid off of what they bring to the table, which is sellout crowds, right? So that means that the owner, like he's going to pay off that contract in the first year, the whole contract, the 3 years is going to get paid off in 1 year because of what the profit margins are coming from. Because now TV deals are going to go up, advertisement deals are going to go up, everything's going to go up. And so it's like when you got these owners that are sitting here nickel and diming everything, but then the players get a bad rep because we're trying to hold off for our rights, and then we look bad, but nobody ever talks about the owners. Like those are the guys that are the greedy ones. They're the ones that are holding out because they got the best lawyers, the best union lawyers, the best all these union law lawyers, and that's all they're doing is figuring out a way to freaking screw everybody else to make them more money. It's what they're supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what they're supposed to do. But then on our side, our job is to protect our rights. And that's why you're in a lockout, is because we had a terrible deal this past 5 years, and they can't do another deal like that because it's gonna make baseball worse. And everything that guys before us fought for and struck for, all the way back to the 70s with free agency and minor league free agency and all these things, like we're losing all of that. So these guys sacrificed everything, and now we're starting to just go back to square one like we never did it before. And it's all for one thing. It's all money. But the question is, who's greedy? The guys that are billionaires already, that it's like they don't want to pay to win. They'd rather just sit there up in their high horse in their freaking suites and bring all their business guys in and just collect their checks. They don't care about winning because it's a write-off for them.
Yeah. No, that is so true. And that's the unfortunate part, because it's like how do they come to an agreement on anything? Because you're right. The owners are definitely greedy and they just don't want to, they don't want to give in, but
they don't. And the players can't, because at the end of the day, the only way the owners are going to make money is from the players. So the
Yeah.
players got to understand that and it sucks because you're seeing it right now with a lot of guys that are retiring, right? They're retiring one because they're probably over it, physically, mentally, emotionally. There's a lot of reasons why guys just retire, right? But there's no end in sight, and there shouldn't be. Like until the players get what they want, because at the end of the day, the players have all the power because they're the product.
Yeah.
They're the
They're the
product.
ones that are making these owners money.
If it wasn't for the players, but you need guys like Mookie and Trout and these guys that are making 40 million or 30 million. They got to be willing to walk away from everything to gain something, right? Like you got to be willing to not get paid for the benefit of the game in a whole. But that's the thing is it's just like society, right? You got the high net worth individuals, and then you got the low class, and you get the people in the middle, the ones that are fucked, right? Those are the people that get screwed. And so it's like, so the people down here, they want the money from the top, the money on the top want to stay there. So they don't want to pay anybody on the bottom, but it's the people in the middle, right? That are like the 2, 3, 4 year guys in the league. Those are the guys that get screwed because they need to hold out because those guys deserve to get paid more, right? People don't understand when you sign a minor league deal, when you get drafted, if you go all your minor league contract and your major league contract when you first get there, the team has your rights for 12 years before you get a chance to get paid. That's before arbitration and free agency. You get through arbitration and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, like they'll sit there and they'll call. I missed Super 2 by like 20 days. I didn't know, but I was up and down so much. But teams are doing that. They're figuring out ways to manipulate the time card so they don't have to pay you. So it's like they need to bring up the minimum. It's like, dude, why and shorten the free agency to 5 years, in my opinion, and up the minimum 1, 2, 3 million. Why not? They can afford it, and it's going to make people want to stick around and play. Like there's guys that I know that were way better than me, but they couldn't afford it because now they're in the minor leagues making $10,000 a year.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I can go on for hours about that, but it is frustrating because at the end of the day, the fans want a season. The fans deserve a season, but they deserve a competitive season from 1 to 30, not top 5.
It's true. It's so true. And that's why it's so frustrating. And I just hope that they can figure out something soon and that the owners can kind of just, stop being so greedy and just come up with a fair deal that works for both sides.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The hardest thing is what's fair, right? Like everybody's definition of what's fair is different. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's like, and that's where you just do percentages, right? Like you figure out whatever the revenue sharing is or the balance taxes and all that is 50-50, but they need to reach it's all about the wording. That's one thing that I realize with contracts and stuff, it's the wording, right? So if you're going to have a competitive balance tax, like that money needs to be clarified that needs to go to players. Like not to the organization, not to boost your spring training facility or your low A team. That money needs to go back into players because you need to make your team on the field competitive. That's the whole point of the kid. There ain't no do it as good faith, right? There ain't no good faith when it comes to business. Anybody that ever thinks you're working in good faith is an idiot. It does not know how to use contractual, like how to do a contract. Because you can say, oh, good faith. The handshake, unfortunately, handshakes don't work no more. That whole respect the handshake is gone in society, right? It's just you got to get it in writing and you got to specify to the freaking T where that money needs to go. And that's the only way you're going to get things to where the game needs to shift to where everybody has a chance to win or give them an incentive to win, right?
Yeah, some reason to, really want to go out there and try to win games and be successful.
Yeah, because if a team on the bottom, they get the highest percentage of the revenue, they get the highest percentage of the competitive balance tax. So what's their incentive to become – because the top 15 teams don't get nothing. So why would you want – if you're not going to win the whole thing, why win? Because that means you're going to get money taken out of your pocket because it's not coming from the league down.
That's so true, though. Yeah, that's so true. Because then what's even the point?
What's the incentive to win? Because if I win, but maybe I'm good, but we're not the Boston Red Sox of 18. Like that's who we got to play with. We can't compete against them. So why are we going to try to go out there to be number 10?
Yeah, I see what you're
we
saying.
Can be number 28, and we can get the biggest check. So now that's going to offset our payroll. So now we don't have to dip into our pockets any more than we have to, because now all of a sudden our $35 million has gone down to $10 million because of all this money we're getting from MLB as revenue sharing because we're the low of the end.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's such a good point, and being able to give those incentives would just make it more competitive for every team, and it would just be
100%.
more fun for people to watch no matter what team it is.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just hope something gets done soon because this is just ridiculous and everybody wants baseball. I mean, I know people on Twitter are dying without baseball, or any news to even talk about related to it. So I just really hope that this can get figured out soon because I
Yeah.
definitely hope that we don't end up in the situation where there is no season because that would
I
just be
agree.
sad.
Especially, with what happened 2 years ago. I mean, even with last year kind of being a little weird at the beginning, I'm glad everything kind of got squared away at the end for the playoffs and stuff. But yeah, I mean, the baseball can't afford to not have another season. But at the end of the day, like, is that just because we need a season for the fans? Is that enough for the union to sacrifice the rights that the players deserve to be protected for the fans? The fans make the game. Let's make that clear. The fans make the game. But the only way the fans are going to get what they deserve, which is competitive games every single day, is unfortunately is where we're at right now. Like, this has to be figured out to where it's fair, but equally fair for both sides because everybody wants to make money. It doesn't matter what business you're in, you don't go into business to lose money. And that is on both sides. So the owners need to make their money. I'm all about them making their money. Like, they're the ones taking a lot of the risk because they're the ones cutting the checks, right? They're the owners, they're the CEOs. If they screw up, everybody loses a job, right? But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, you got to pay the product, right? The product is what's on the field, right? And so as long as it's fair and understanding that you're going to have to do give and take on both sides, but it's got to be an equal give and take, then it's going to be a lot and more entertaining for fans to be able to go. That's what's going to get fans in. Like, that's what's going to get more people drawn into the game, knowing that everybody's going to be competitive.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you 100% on that. And that would just make the game so much better in general for people. And
Yeah,
this whole situation is honestly just so unfortunate.
it is. But, it's part of the sports.
Yeah.
Baseball, football, basketball, everybody goes through it, and
Yeah.
it sucks. It sucks as a fan, but, it just know, and I hope that all the fans understand that it's a necessity to make the product on the field better for the fans.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
definitely see what you
and it's
mean.
hard. It's hard. It's really hard to understand because you start looking at these people that are all millionaires and these guys are all filthy rich. It's like, oh, they want more. Everybody talks about the money, but it's not always about the money. It's about contractual contracts that are going to protect our livelihood and our ability to pursue and continue to pursue being a baseball player or just the organization and a business as a whole. It's not about the dollar. It's just about the equality. That's all it is making sure it's equal for everybody. If you work hard and you do right, you get paid, and it should be quicker. So there's a lot of things that it's not just about money, and that's what people got to understand. It's not, oh, Trout needs to get another 5 million. I think he deserves it because he's freaking unbelievable. But at the end of the day, it's not about that. It's making sure that the guy at the bottom of the barrel is getting his fair share of being paid for what he's able to bring to the table. And you should get paid for what you bring to the table. You don't get paid just to get paid because it's everybody deserves the same thing. No, it's not that. It's not socialism, right? We don't all get what, if you work your ass off, you should get paid for that.
Yeah.
Simple as that. And that's how it needs to be from the bottom all the way up. It's just the discrepancy between the guys at the bottom and the guys at the top is $42.5 million.
Yeah.
So there's guys that are making more in 1 year that teams are paying for an entire team, and one guy's getting it. So that shows you that there's money there. We just got to get the owners to reach a little bit further down.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, that's a really good way of putting it too. And I 100% agree.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is what it is, I guess. But we'll
Yeah,
see
it is.
we'll see what happens and we'll see what
Yeah.
they end up coming up with or working out, if
Yeah.
which hopefully will be soon. Uh,
Hopefully. see. I'm
but
not gonna hold my breath, but
yeah, I'm not
hopefully.
either. I'm definitely
Yeah.
not either. I'm
Appreciate
just
you having me on though. This was fun.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming on. This was a great time, and I hope
Yeah.
everyone enjoyed it. I hope everyone has a great rest of the week. Always appreciate the support and people tuning in. I'll definitely have to get you on again at some point also.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll do it again.
Go Red Sox was the most important thing I have to add at the end here.
Yeah.
Best team in baseball. And I hope everyone I hope everyone has a great rest of the week, and I'll talk to you all next time.